I think we've all heard of pre-existing conditions in the medical realm, something that you've had to have taken care of in the past, and it's pre-existing. It's something that you bring into the situation. And I want to apply that concept to what God is dealing with when he deals with humanity. God takes a lot of heat because he's God. He can handle it, but it creates some misconceptions in human thought and human interaction with other humans and with God himself. We need to understand that God knows what he's dealing with. But I believe it's humans that forget what God is dealing with. So I just, by way of reminder, go back to the beginning here when Adam and Eve were living in an amazing place called Eden. But there was one thing in Eden that Adam was told not to partake of. And that was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And you see it here in chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 15, and I'll just read it. The Lord God placed the man in the Garden of Eden to tend and watch over it. But the Lord God warned him, you may eat freely of any fruit of every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat its fruit, you are sure to die. And I won't get into the whole free will choice thing right now. That's another time. But suffice to say, Adam and Eve did eat of the fruit. They were tempted, and they ate it. And they died. Fast forward to God's conversation with them after that. After the blame game of whose fault it was, God says this to the serpent. Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the animals, domestic and wild. You will crawl on your belly, groveling in the dust as long as you live. And I will cause hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. And he will strike your head, that's Eve's offspring, and you will strike his heel. Then he said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in pain you will give birth, and you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. Since you listened to your wife, this is what he said to the man, since you listened to your wife and ate from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat, the ground is cursed because of you. All your life you will struggle to scratch a living from it. And I will grow thorns and thistles for you. It will grow thorns and thistles for you. Though you will eat of its grains, by the sweat of your brow will you have food to eat until you return to the ground from which you were made, for you were made from dust, and to dust you will return. I always find it interesting that we easily forget that God is working with pre-existing conditions. He's working with humanity that's fallen from the original plan. And it quickly became really bad, really quick. I mean, right after the section I just read, you have, chapter 4 where Cain kills Abel. And so the conflict ensues, and humanity is not walking with God. They're cut off from God, and God is and has been seeking to redeem humanity ever since. So the thought for the day is this. As you look at the Bible, you see that God is a redemptive God. He made a great sketch in the Old Testament of how people need to walk with him, but ultimately we are unable to walk with him without his help and without his oversight and without a relationship with him. Then you come to the New Testament, where Jesus Christ is really God's final statement to humanity regarding how he should live and move and walk with God. So the word today is God is dealing with pre-existing conditions, but he has dealt with them well because he is God, and he deals with them through his Son, Jesus Christ. We need him in our life. We're made to know him. So let's walk with him in faith, hope, and love.